Okay.
Should I put other glasses on?
No, you're beautiful, just the way you are. Okay, it's recording, you guys. All right. So, Grandpa, when were you born?
I was born May 6, 1919.
Grandma?
April 18th, 1922.
Who were you born to?
Oscar and Gladys Helgerson. Gladys Holton Helgerson and Oscar Helgerson.
Grandma?
And Ralph N. Baker. N is for Nelson. And Mamie Anna Siebert Baker.
Now, Grandpa, your aunts, you had Ruby.
Ruby and Gertrude.
Were your
They were
aunts?
mother's sisters. Dad had one sister, Nettie. And Nettie Scary is after her married name. Oh, she had another sister, Molly Schmidt. So he had two sisters, and Nettie was born 10 years before Dad. Dad was the last child in the family. Okay.
Grandma?
I was the oldest child. I was born on Grandview Avenue in Ottumwa when they were born at home. And I have a younger brother, Robert, who is 3 years younger than I, and a younger sister, Gloria, who is 4 years younger than Robert.
Grandpa? Your siblings?
I had one brother, Austin T. Helgerson, and he was a year and a half older than I am. He was a year and a half older than I am. Get the English right.
Okay. Where were you born, Grandpa?
Miles City, Montana.
Do you know? Okay. When did you move to Iowa?
I think I was about 4 years old, so it would have been about 1923. And why I moved to Iowa? The bank that Dad was in went broke, and it busted everything for him and the whole family. I remember Mother asked how bad it was, and he said, we have what the kids have in their banks. We had little book banks, to save pennies and nickels and dimes in. And I remember him opened them, and we had between $17 and $18 in the family. So it was kind of a sad time.
Yeah. So then you picked up and moved?
Yeah, we moved to Decorah because that's where Mother was from. Grandpa Holton had a farm there, and he had a nice house in town when he was retired. And I think they staked Dad to a bank position in Decorah, and he was cashier of the First National Bank. And I think it cost about $5,000 to buy stock to get him into the bank, which could be sold later, and was sold later. But we moved in with Grandpa and Grandma in their house because we didn't have a place to live in. It was, back then, it wasn't uncommon. I mean, everybody was tight. And we lived with Grandma and Grandpa for quite a while. And actually, Dad, my grandma and my mother and my aunts kind of raised me with my grandfather because Dad was working all the time and didn't put in very much of an appearance except at night. And it was a nice life for me. It was fun.
Grandma, what was your childhood like?
Well, let me think. I was born and lived on a farm west of Ottumwa, which is Grandpa Siebert's farm, until I was 6. And Grandpa Siebert had sold his farm to Daddy, my father. The Depression came, and Daddy couldn't make the payments. So he ran for sheriff of Wapello County and got it. So we moved to town when I was 6, and Grandpa took the farm back. My mother never really did forgive my dad for doing that, because she thought he could have kept it. So anyway, she was the for sheriff's wife, and we lived in front of the jail on 215 North Court, across the street from the St. Mary's School. And it was quite an experience, even though I was young. And I only had Robert, was a younger brother, so that we had the two of us. And then we lived there until the end of the Depression, when Daddy got voted out of office. He was a good Republican, and Roosevelt came in and swished him out. So I really enjoyed, I think it was a really good thing for me to be in a Ottumwa school system, because I think I owe them a lot for broadening my life and making I am what I am today, because if I'd have stayed on the farm, I would have had a very narrow outlook like some of the other people. And my mother never did adjust to the city, because she was loved the farm and loved her chickens, so it was pretty hard for her. But she became the cook of the prisoners and the carekeeper of the county jail. And boy, she made those guys scrub and clean that place up, I'll tell you. Good Swedish mother.
Yeah.
So it kept her out of business, out of trouble. And they did the cooking for the prisoners, and I remember a lot of beans and bread. When they make them, they had trays that were had a square or oblong trays with a slot on that they would put 4 pieces of bread in, and then the main dish, and the front of that, which is usually ham and beans.
Is that what you would eat too?
Well, no, we had different food, but we could eat it if we wanted it. So then we lived there until I think I was 10 anyway. We moved west of town, or we moved out on North Market at that time and lived there about a year. While Daddy became a receiver for all the banks. Insurance company that in the West that lost their farms, so he had to go and he was the salesman to sell those farms. And then after that, and he never was the farmer, you get down to that. And then after that, we moved south of town, or northwest of town, at the end of West 2nd in Ottumwa, and up on the hill where Morrell Packing Company used to feed cattle. They had a house up there and 2 huge barns. I went to Hedrick School in West Ottumwa for a year out there. While we were there, the east barn burned one time. Huge fire, because they had all kinds of hay and corn in it. And the fire lasted for a long, long time. That was way from the house. And then 6 months later, the barn next to the house burned. And that's getting a little close, you see.
Mm-hmm.
And it burned for a week, I think, because of the bad, all the corn